What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Happy Monday morning. This is going live on Monday morning, and I'm filming this on Sunday. And I just got back late last night from the California Custom Knife Show 2021. And I wanted to just do a little bit of a kind of a wrap up, kind of a discussion about knife shows and my experience. Okay, I've been to the California Custom Knife Show. This is the fourth time, maybe, something like that. I've been for several years, and I think I skipped a year, and then I went to the last 3 years or whatever. So I think this is my fourth year. But anyway, my first year that I went, I got this custom Reaper from Eric Kramer, and he was there at the show. He had maybe 10 knives on the table, and I had just gotten really into the custom knives at that point. And that was like 5 years ago now, maybe 6. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. But in meeting Eric and talking with him and just handling this knife, I was like, wow. Okay. And I've done a full video on it, so I'm not going to bore you with all the specs and all the stuff. But what really caught my attention was that the backspacer is a piece of wood. Okay. This is ironwood. And apparently ironwood is so dense that it doesn't float. It just sinks. And it's got the carbon fiber. It's got a slight recurve. It's just awesome. Okay. I love this knife. And you can see it gets a little bit of wear on it because most of my knives, as I've talked about before, I carry and I use. And it was awesome meeting the maker in person as he told me the story of how he came up with this knife and all of that. It was awesome. So I bought it. The other knife I bought at that point was not this one, but it was a full-size Medford Marauder. And I got to meet Greg for the first time. And it was my first brand new. It was my second Medford knife. And it was my first brand new Medford knife. My first one I bought on eBay, a Praetorian G. And then I got the full-size Praetorian. This is a Praetorian. Then I got a full-size Marauder. This is the Marauder H, so it has the thinner blade. Okay? But these are just out because they kind of came from the show. Like this specifically, and this model, the previous model, came from this particular show. So, fast forward to yesterday. Flew down in the morning, went to the show, met up with my buddy Chris from Texas, who's an awesome friend of mine. So we hung out in the morning before the show, went into the show, walked around, did all the normal stuff. Now, I apologize right now. Not even really apologize, but I'll explain. I did not take any videos at the show. I did not take any. I took maybe 5 pictures. Maybe 7 pictures. Less than 10 pictures. And the first pictures I took were actually me trying on some watches from a maker. Because he had noticed my watch. I had my Rolex Air King on. He had been looking at those. So I pulled it off and I handed it to him and he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, the least I can do is share my watch with you when I am picking up thousands of dollars worth of knives off of your table. And, the least I can do is share my watch with you so you can try it on." So he took off his Rolex Submariner, put my Air King on. He liked it. His buddy next to him at the table takes off his Rolex Daytona and hands it to me so that I could try that on. And so we sat there for maybe 20 minutes talking watches. go to the knife show, try on watches, right? I mean, so those were the first pictures I took, was me with the Daytona and me with the Submariner of the first guys. And then, because I had to send those in a group message to my watch buddies. And I literally said, go to the knife show and try on watches. So I got to chat with them for a little bit. And then I walked around the show. Chris ended up leaving and going back to the airport because he had an earlier flight than me. And then my buddy Alex shows up. And then we walked around and we got to talk to people. And Alex knows a lot more people than I do. So he introduced me to some people and stuff. So I made some good connections there and good friends. But again, I didn't really take any video. I took no videos and I took very few pictures. I did spend a lot of time with my friend Edison from Sharknivco. Now, Edison and I know each other from 3 or 4 years ago at the show, because we were hanging out and we all went to dinner and had like a big dinner thing that night with another good friend of mine, Joe. Took us all out to dinner with Edison, his brother Victor, and couple of 3 other makers and stuff like that. It was a great time. So I've kept in touch with Edison ever since. And we spent a lot of time there at the booth just hanging out. Sadly, I did not win either of his 2 lottos that I had signed up for, which sucks. I was sad. But I was happy because I kind of went down there with the intention not to buy anything. But what was very cool was I got to spend time with Edison talking and listening to him talk about what happens inside the knife. How he arranges the bearings. Why he does what he does. And kind of the mechanics and the engineering behind the bearings that he uses and the size pivots and why he does certain things. And it was super cool. And while I didn't take video, I think I didn't take video because it wasn't really conducive to that. It was very loud. There was a ton of people there. It was kind of crowded because it was indoors this time. Last year it was outdoors, so it was much more spread out. But sometimes I get into a situation like that and like, I don't know. I don't even really tell the makers when I'm talking to them that I do a YouTube. I'm really low key about it. I don't know. And that's kind of a question to my other YouTube friends that are going to watch this maybe, because there's 1 or 2 of them that actually watch my videos. Do you tell everybody that you know, whether it's in the knife community or not? Do your friends, do you guys talk about it with your friends? I certainly don't. I don't keep it a secret, but I don't really talk about it with my personal friends much that are not into the knife community or the watch community. I don't know. It's just a thing. I don't know. I'm not embarrassed by it. I don't know. It's weird. So I'm trying to wrestle with that a little bit mentally. And so when I go to the shows and I introduce myself to some of these makers and I talk to them, and it might come up like it did with Kurt American, because I have reviewed one of his earlier knives. It was a big, huge Leviathan, and it was awesome. And so we got to talk about that. But I don't know. I kind of more in the moment when I'm at the show. So I didn't take any videos and do like a interview of a maker or anything like that. I just kind of am there in the moment, I guess. And that's not to say anything negative about the people that do videos from the shows, because a lot of people do. And I came away from the show kind of thinking as I get on the plane, man, I didn't really network. I didn't take any videos I could have done. And I had a plan. I was going to maybe try to do that, but I just didn't. So you get a little recap instead. So then my question is, before I tell you one of the things that I learned from Edison is, do you guys like this kind of content? Just kind of the rambling and just kind of a commentary? Or do you want me to just shut up and talk about the knives and it's this long and that long and it weighs this much and all that? I would love to hear your comments down below on what do you guys want to hear or see more of? So I've got some other ideas for commentary type stuff, as well as the knife thing. So you're going to get both regardless. I mean, but I would like to hear your opinions. So one of the things that Edison told me when he was explaining how many balls are in the bearings, and I don't remember the numbers, right? He had 4 or 5 different models on his table, and he goes, well, this one over here has 62 balls. This has 57. This has 52 because it's a smaller knife, and here's why I do it and all that. And he goes, I'm not making a knife for you. I'm making a knife for your grandkids and maybe their grandkids. And it really made me step back and think, he's right. And he pulled out a knife that a customer had given him at the show to do a spot treatment on that was about 5 years old. And he pulled it out of his box under the table and let me kind of handle it and whatnot. He's going to do a spot, and he's going to change the finish of the scales and just do a couple things to it. It flipped like brand new. It was just as solid. It was just as everything. And then we were talking, and he's familiar with this knife, right? This one came before he put the logos on his blades. And this was a different knife when he made it, because it used to be black scales. But one of the owners before me changed it. And I don't remember why. I think it was scratched up or something, so they did a hand rub finish on it instead. But Edison and his wife knew this because they made 4 of these in a matching set for 4 different people, right? But it's cool that he knows the knives he's made. He hasn't made that many. He hasn't made thousands and thousands. So he can kind of remember the knives that he's made. And this one's older than the one I had handled. This is still like a brand new knife. It's broken in, super nice, runs great. There's no lock stick. There's no problems or issues with this knife at all. And I think he made this one in 16, late 15, early 16, I think they said. So it's 5-ish years old, 5+ years old. So I think he's right. He is really making for the long term. And that's why he thinks about the inner workings, which was just interesting to me to hear it in those terms. And I'm sure all the makers are thinking the same thing. This is nothing against any other maker. Just a little tidbit that I took away from the show in talking to Eddie. The other thing I did at the show is I really connected with Chris again, which is great, and Alex. Alex and I talk all the time, but we don't get to see each other very often. So it was really fun to see him, and then he actually ended up giving me a ride to the airport, which was super nice. Thank you for that. And it's always good to see people in person as well as just texting and talking on the phone and all of that good stuff. So I had a really great time. I sort of kicked myself for not doing a little more YouTube networking and a little videoing and stuff like that. But it's just kind of how I run my channel, or I run my show experiences. I don't know. But let me know your thoughts down below on the type of videos and how do you go to the shows? The other thing I took away from the shows is shows are bad. They're bad because I saw some things in person I'd only seen online before. Specifically something from Peter Martin. He does a lava blade. And I talked to him and his son. His son does amazing work too. Chris actually bought something from his son. And which I'm thinking Chris is going to send me to review, so fingers crossed. But they do this lava blade, and I think it's the QSP XL that I saw. I tried to remember the name, but I took some pictures, but I don't think I remember the actual model name. But I kind of want a lava blade in my collection now. So the shows are bad because it shows you things that you may not have seen in person, or things you may not have known about that you now want. So it's only money, and it's only things, and talk to some other collectors that are above me. There's always somebody that has more knives than you, better knives than you, more expensive knives than you. There's always going to be that. Am I striving to get to the next level? Not necessarily, but it does make you think when you meet somebody and they're talking about the beater that's in their pocket, or, things like that. It just makes you think. So it was good. I'm glad I flew down for the day. I was just down and back really quick in a day, long day, but it was worth it to meet the makers, connect with makers I already knew, and see some friends that I knew in person also, and meet some people from online that I had never met in person. So that was also great. So that's kind of my take on the show. I kind of rambled a little bit, I think, but I think you get the idea. If you have any questions about the show, about any of the knives that I have, please let me know. And like I said, please let me know your thoughts on, do you want just more knife reviews, or would you like more commentary videos, discussion videos? Very curious to see what people think. So thanks for watching. I do greatly appreciate your time. Always. It's really an honor when I see the view counts. I mean, I don't dwell on that stuff or the subscriber counts, but it is nice to see those both growing. So thank you for your support. It means a lot. So have a great day, everyone. Happy Monday to you if you're watching this on the first day that it comes out. And hope you have a great week. We'll see you tomorrow.